Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline and I create knitting content here on YouTube. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a craft. It's not really knitting, but it still does involve yarn, so I feel like it still belongs here on my channel. And what it is it's how to make your own DIY latch hook kit. So I used to do a lot of these when I was younger and I think they're a lot of fun. Two of my sisters enjoy doing them too, so I decided for Valentine's Day I wanted to make them each their own little latch hook kit just for fun. And I didn't want any of the standard designs. I wanted to make it kind of have my own fun with arts and crafts. So I just came up with this little one with hearts on it. And so what I'm going to take you through in this video is first how I actually just started with regular plain mesh and I transferred a design that I created onto the mesh. So I show you how I graph it out and decide how large I want it to be. Then I'm going to show you how to actually transfer the design onto the mesh so you can create multiple of the same ones if you want to. Then I'm going to show you the trick I have for how to cut all the strands to be the same length, because that's probably the most time-consuming part of making your own latch hook kit. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching. Starting off with my non-yarn materials, first thing I have is just a set of markers. So the markers are going to be used for two things. The first thing is going to be to plan out my colors on my graph paper. And then the second thing is going to be to actually draw the colors onto my latch hook mesh fabric. Next up, I have a latch hook. Then I have some wax paper here, just a couple sheets. And this wax paper is going to be used kind of like tracing paper so that I can transfer the designs I have on the graph paper onto my mesh fabric. So I'll show you that in a bit. Then I have some graph paper, and you want the graph paper to be the same dimensions as your mesh fabric. So basically my mesh fabric is 4 stitches per inch, so you want it to be 4 boxes per inch. And there's different ways you can do that. First, if you just already have graph paper, that's one of the standard sizes. Or if you don't already have graph paper, you can do what I did, which is where you just go onto Excel and you create the graph paper to whatever dimensions you need. Next up, I have a pom-pom maker. So I'm going to be using a pom-pom maker to actually make each individual piece of thread and cut them all to be the same length. So for example, here are a few pieces I tested out. So this size pom-pom maker, which I'll put right up here in the corner of the screen, is the size that I found that makes the standard latch hook size of 2.5 inches. And then lastly, I have my mesh fabric. So this one I got off of Amazon. I'll be sure to link to it down below. And this piece is 24 inches by 30 inches. And as I noted, it is 4 boxes per inch. Next up for my yarn. So what I did is I just went into my yarn stash and I found leftover yarn I had that would go along with the color scheme I was thinking of. So as I noted in the intro, mine's going to be Valentine's Day themed. So I picked out all my pinks, and this one's actually kind of more like a peachy orange, but I thought it'd look really cute. So these 3 over here are all, I think they're all Vanna's Choice, I'm fairly certain. And then all of these ones over here are actually leftovers from one of my previous videos where I showed how to make these mittens out of a sweet roll. So all of these colors actually came from one skein of yarn, and I'll be sure to link that yarn down below as well. So yeah, these are going to be all the yarn I'm using, and this is a fun project because it's also a fun way to use up the scraps that you have that are left over from other things. I just took my mesh out of the fabric, and the first thing I noticed that I did want to point out is that this mesh does kind of have an odd smell to it. So I'll have to link to a couple different ones down below that are alternatives. I'm hoping the smell kind of fades away. It just kind of smells really strongly, almost like paint or something. So again, this one's 24 by 30 inches, and I want to make 3 kits out of this one. So I'm going to cut this into 3 equal sizes, and then I'll come back and I'll start designing from there. But if you're just doing a larger design where you only need to put one thing on here, you definitely don't have to cut your mesh first. You can make your design and then come back and cut it. I just want to make sure I don't design things that are too big for what I'm working with. So I finished cutting each one of my pieces, and basically I've only cut it in one dimension. So right now each one of these is 10 inches wide, and there's 39 blocks. So I want to leave about 1 inch on each side. So that's going to be 4 blocks on either side. So now in the middle, there's a total of 31 blocks that are remaining. So my design is going to be 31, or I might just round that down to 30. It'll be 30 wide. And then I can do however many really, because these are pretty long panels tall. So I'll probably end up doing about a 30 by 30 design. So now I can move on to my graph paper. And my graph paper is not quite 30 wide, so I'm just going to end up taping two together. And I'm just going to number along the bottom, go 1 to 30, and then draw in my design. And then I'll come back and show you how I'm going to transfer this design onto the paper, because I've always preferred the ones where like they were colored and then I just latch hook right onto there. So that's going to be the type that I make. Here's my finished design. So the next step is going to be to put the design actually on the mesh. So how I'm going to do this is I'm actually just going to take some wax paper, put the wax paper right on top of it, and then lay my mesh on top of that. Now I want to line it up so that I have the right number of border stitches all around. So I have 4 boxes around each border. Okay. Mine's all lined up now. So I'm going to take a darker color marker, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace around the outside. And I'm doing this basically because you can't quite tell, because my background color is white, basically where there's actually supposed to be white ones versus which one's supposed to just be a border. Now I'm going to take 3 other colors and trace out each one of my hearts. And basically the way I wanted the colors to work is the bottom 2 hearts are going to be one color, the middle 2 hearts are going to be another color, and then the top 2 hearts are going to be the third color. So I'm just going to start with the orangish color at the bottom. And the way I'm going to outline them is I'm going to do, basically if there's a box, I'm going to do the one below it, the bar below it, and then if there's 2 that are touching, I'm going to do the one up the middle. So for example, here on this row, there's 4, so I'm going to do the 4 bottom bars, and then any of these center bars. Then again, I'm going to do all the bottom ones, and then keep on coloring them in that way. So I just finished tracing it, and now the final step is going to be to cut the yarn. But first I need to figure out how many of each color I need. So the way I did it is first I just calculated how many squares I had total, or how many pieces of yarn I would need. So mine's 31 by 30, so that's a total of 930 pieces of yarn. And then I calculated how many for each heart. So basically I know each heart is 52, so I need basically 104 of my first color, I need 104 of my second color, and I need 104 of my third color. And then for the background, I just do the difference between those two. So I did 930 minus 104 minus 104 minus 104. So that brought me to 618. So those are the counts I need and how I calculated that out. The nice thing about doing it on graph paper too is you can just basically, if you have a large area that's all one color, you can just draw a big rectangle and calculate how many are in that section. So to cut the yarn so that it's all equal length, what I do is I take half the pom-pom maker, and I'm just going to lay some of my yarn over it, hold it in place with my thumb, make sure they stay lined up, and now I just want to loop the yarn around. And there's a couple tricks I found that make each of the pieces equal length, because even with a pom-pom maker, they can end up being different lengths. So what I found helps is if I only do one layer, so I never double up, like I don't go back over. I only do one layer, and I basically push all the pieces close together, and then I just cut them little bits at a time. So this is probably maybe about 15 pieces right here. And I just cut right across, and now here's a bunch. And then I basically just count out however many I need once I've cut a bunch, and then I've just tied them together in little bundles. So that's how I create each one of the colors. So now I'll come back and show you what my finished kit and finished project look like. So here's my finished kit. So first I'll just show you what it looked like when it was all done. So here's my little hearts on my background. And then I actually made one of these for each of my sisters. So what's included is first I just made the chart and I just color copied my original one. Then I have my colored mesh. And then lastly, I tied each one of the sets of yarn into little bundles. And so basically there was about, I think around 100 strands in each bundle. And then I have one smaller one for all the different colors. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you some inspiration in case you like doing latch hooks and have always wanted to create your own kit. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them down below. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.